Hey everyone, it's me John again. Welcome to another Geek and Dorks review. Once again, we are looking at a mystery documentary, and I can't remember who it was, but this one was mentioned to me by a commenter. Thank you so much for pointing me in this direction. This is for Love and Terror on the Howling Plains of Nowhere. It's a heck of a title, isn't it? From IMDb, here is the description on it. In an isolated High Plains community, a brilliant mathematics professor disappears from the local college without a trace. 3 months later, his body is discovered tied to a tree and burned beyond recognition in the remote hills south of campus. Iconoclastic author Poe Ballantine searches for clues related to the case while reflecting on his own life of wanderlust. So Poe Ballantine is actually the pen name for a man named Ed Hughes. And this documentary, I think, is based on his book, and it has a bit of a different approach than you would expect for a mystery documentary of this kind. Now, it might be because there's not a whole lot of information about this case, about the mathematics professor, to really spend a full hour and a half or so reviewing it. So Poe essentially talks about the motivations for why he moved to Chadron, I believe is how it's said, Chadron, Nebraska, which is a very small community. I think it's just over 5,000 people, surrounded by plains, and they had a big brush fire that happened there one summer, and then about 3 months after that, this mathematics professor moves there, takes a job at the local college, works there only for a couple of months, and then disappears. The whole town, of course, gets into a bit of a frenzy trying to understand what happened to him, and ultimately they wind up finding his body tied to a tree and burnt to a crisp. Now, this case is unsolved, so if you get to the end of this documentary, you're not going to have a firm, oh, we know what happened feeling. However, what's cool is the parallel that Ed or Poe, depending on whatever you want to call him, I'm going to call him Poe from now on, the parallels that Poe tries to draw to his own experience and the experience of this mathematics professor. Essentially, Poe went to this place, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, to end his life. So there's definitely an aspect where you could consider that the mathematics professor maybe committed an extreme form of suicide by tying himself to a tree, lighting himself on fire, and if that's the case, I think he was trying to make it so that his body would be as close to completely burned or disappeared so that no one could ever find him, if that's the case. Of course, if you consider that he's tied to a tree, it makes you really think, how the heck do you do that to yourself? Isn't there someone else helping you? Also, he had a replaced hip, and apparently he took a very long walk to get to his final resting place, so some people think that, oh, maybe someone else was there with him. However, that's really not what the documentary is about. The documentary really looks at this town, the emotional arc that they go through meeting this person that they all seem to appreciate in terms of his intellect and him being different, and then the turmoil that happens once he disappears and all the rumors start churning and burning around. And Poe gets to really tell a bit of his life story, how he came out of that depression that was leading him to want to end his life, fell in love with this community, and chose to stay there. It's got this very offbeat feeling running through this documentary. There are a lot of moments when I found myself smiling at these characters. I mean, it's just filled with these interviews of people that are characters that you can easily associate with, people that are very, very different from you that you can just say, wow, that's a really interesting person or a really interesting perspective. You've got the police, the local police being looked at as clowns because of a series of bad events that they kind of have happen. You've got another professor who's former LAPD who thinks he can really help crack the case, and he's kind of getting in the way. It is chock full of interesting characters, and the overall narrative of Poe coming out of his depression and likening what he went through to this mathematics professor. I really, really enjoyed this. I think I would rate it a 7 out of 10. fans of Brain Scratch. I'm starting to do more reviews like this because I've noticed that you guys watch more reviews on topics that are kind of in this mystery vein, so I'm going to try to do that going forward. But fans of Brain Scratch that like open-ended mysteries, there's definitely one to be had here. You can tear into some research after and try to look through articles. The police have not concluded this as a suicide. According to the autopsy, it looks like they have categorized this as an unexplained death. That's not the right term, but I can't remember how there's a checkbox on the autopsy form for it. It's like could not determine, or cause not determined, or something like that. So definitely a bit of a brain scratch mystery around it also, but just a really enjoyable documentary that has this neat kind of mystery twist element going on in it. And if nothing else, just for its offbeat nature, I think it's really, really worth checking out. So I hope you'll do that. And if you do, tell me about it in the comments below. Also, once again, this came directly from a commenter. Thank you again for recommending this to me. So if you have any other mysteries that you think the Brain Scratch audience might be into, please tell me about those documentaries down below, and I'll be sure to check them out. Maybe they'll come up on a review in the future. I hope you're having a great holiday week. I will catch you next time on Geek and Dorks, the channel. Take care, everybody. It's kind of shot almost feeling like a... Gary.